Hey everybody, welcome. THORChain is the first DEX that can swap real Bitcoin. And now you can use any Bitcoin wallet in the world to swap. You don't have to connect it to a website. Same with Ethereum, XRP, Binance Smart Chain, Tron, Doge, and more. And eventually you'll be able to swap any token from any wallet. And I should make it clear you can't use a smart contract wallet. We've had some issues there on the front end, people using smart contract wallets. Apparently these are new as of like the last year or two. And um, so you cannot send or receive from a smart contract address. And we're trying to work on some we're brainstorming on ways to make warnings and whatnot, try and improve the UI on the interface. So yeah, please don't use a smart contract wallet. THORChain is turning into a full layer one liquidity engine where apps can be built on top of it. This new app layer unlocks lending, perps, Bitcoin backed stablecoin, the token launchpad, NFTs, prediction markets, and more. THORChain isn't just a DEX, it's becoming a protocol of pure, uncensored liquidity. Swapping on THORChain is permissionless, there's no KYC. Anyone in the world can use it. To swap on THORChain, go to thorchain.org. New features and functionality be added to the site over the next few months. THORChain's token is called RUNE, spelled RUNE. You don't need to buy or hold RUNE to place a swap on THORChain. But all the fees are deducted from your swap, from the token you send in to sell, deducted from that to buy Rune and pay the fee. And that Rune is the yield that goes to the liquidity pools and nodes. And all this yield on the pools and nodes is real. There are no block rewards on THORChain. If you hold Rune on a centralized exchange, you should withdraw it into self custody. These tokens could be used to short sell Rune and drive the price down on yourself. And then once in self custody, you can look into bonding your rune to a node and earn some yield, help secure the network. And in turn, you become an agent in your own success, which can help drive up the rune price. So you can go to the Rune Bond website and to check out nodes looking for bond providers. You can also reach out to Runetard, RUNETARD, on Twitter. And he's been acting like a broker for the new node operators, helping to give some bond providers to try and get their total bond size up. And Runetard also has done a fantastic job of holding new node operators' hands, helping them get set up and run nodes. So if you think you can run a node, but you're maybe a bit scared or want a little help to do it, reach out to Runetard. THORChain has another token called TCY, THORChain Yield. And this token is kind of like a preferred stock. 10% of the protocol revenue goes to these token holders. And so if you participate in THORChain lending or savers, make sure you claim your TCY tokens so you can start collecting this yield. If you didn't, that's okay. Anyone can buy these TCY tokens on thorchain.org. And then you do have to stake it though to collect that yield. So make sure when you get the tokens, you go to stake it to start collecting the yield. There's a THORChain community Discord and Telegram you can join to learn all about THORChain and make friends. To find the links, go to at Thor Community on Twitter. So it's at THOR Community, that account on Twitter. And I don't think there's any node voting going on right now. So nothing to update people. But I will quickly introduce myself. My name's Kenton. I'm a node operator, bond provider on THORChain. I've got a fund that uh, take investors' money. We buy Rune and we run nodes on the network. And I've also been running the THORChain marketing team over the last few months. And so maybe I'll give you guys a bit of an update on that. Patriot, are you there?
Mic check.
Okay,
Mic
there we
check.
go.
Oh, baby. Okay, go ahead, Kenton.
Right on. He's here. Good. Can't do without you, buddy. Um, so yeah, I'll give you guys a little update on marketing. It's been the holidays. I was trying to do little things throughout then. Uh, the most thing you'll see will be CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap. Uh, I've been very annoying to those teams to get everything updated. Lots of back and forth. And CoinGecko, I think, is mostly there. The last real kind of main thing that's hanging that's left is to get the volumes on the exchange page, and I feel like we're close. We have to get they want some custom API endpoints on Midgard, so we're gonna work and get those done, and then hopefully we get that sorted out on CoinGecko. Um, CoinMarketCap is being a bit of a they're being a bit more difficult with the exchange data. They wanted us to pay 50 grand to update it because basically they claimed they need to do specific dev allocate specific because THORChain is unique. It's not like a typical EVM chain that they're going to have to allocate dev resources to do it. So um,
That's fucking
I
ridiculous.
know, I know. I'm
50
going.
grand to like touch an API endpoint? Get out of town.
I know.
Oh God.
But I'm just letting you guys
Jesus
know, like this is what I'm dealing with. So obviously we're not going to do that.
Christ.
I'm gonna go back and forth and whatnot. But uh, yeah, you guys don't really know me, but I don't take no for an answer. I keep plugging away, I keep grilling, I keep going, I keep asking. I will find a way. I'll get this stuff done. Um, so that's what I've been working on the last couple of weeks. Website, the front end. Um, We've had some I mentioned earlier, some issues with smart contract wallets being used to do memoless swaps. So we're brainstorming on ways to try and help prevent protect people from that and not use it. If you guys have any ideas or suggestions, please let me know. Limit orders. I've seen some mock-ups for those. So hopefully they'll be live next week. And then around the same time would be um, being able to adjust streaming swaps. So that's going to be the next main update to change that comes out there. And I'll stop there. See if Patriot wants to jump in. How are your holidays, buddy?
I gotta say, I spent a lot of quality time with my family, and I was bored out of my mind. I am so glad we are back. I am so supercharged. I am ready for 2026, everybody. I hope you guys are ready. I think touching grass and spending time with your family is so overrated when you're part of such a cool protocol. And I am so glad to be back. Shout out to With the Coke down there. We spent a few hours on a live stream together, talking and chatting, and we've been doing the weekly updates as well. We're gonna have be some upgrades there. I'm learning, he's learning. We're gonna get better at it. We are getting better at it. So I am so happy to be here, guys. I've been going crazy. I've been going stir crazy. I'm not someone who does well with vacation. I just like to work. I'm one of those people who would like just die at your cubicle. I don't know. There's something wrong with me. That's just how I am. That's just how I'm wired. And I am so excited. I'm glad to have you, Kent and Chad. I'm so glad you're here. Are you guys ready for this year? We have so much to do. Yeehaw, baby. I am ready. What do you say?
You
What say you, Kenton?
actually reminded me. So another thing. So we're bringing on with the Coke on a more formal position to help us with video content. So we're going to start posting these spaces on the THORChain community YouTube, and he's going to start pulling out some clips from them. So like I get it. Sometimes spaces are 2 or 3 hours long. It's too long for people to listen to. We're gonna try and break them up. Like when certain subjects are talked about, break up those 10, 20, 30 minutes into one clip and post those. So kind of like basically like what Joe Rogan does with his podcast. So with the coast going to help us with that. And then you guys, Patriot, you started doing you guys a weekly recap, and then I think you guys also want to do like some. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're also going to do like when new features or specific updates come out, you're going to kind of go over them individually and help explain them. So we're going to try and improve our video content, and with the coast, going to help be big help with that, and you too, Patriots. So I thank you guys.
Yeah, and that's 100% correct. If there's new primitives or whatever online and whatever, right? It could be THORChain, even Rajira, because Rajira is going to be on STO. It's going to have a THORChain skin on it. We're going to do anything. And if you guys want something explained to you, or if you prefer video content, just let us know. What do you guys want to see? we will focus on that, because right now no one's given us any suggestions. So we're thinking about doing memolist and doing some other things, bonding rune, blah 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 blah, basic stuff. But if you guys want anything done, or if you want us to go more in depth on any topic, just let us know. We will focus on that. But yes, me with the Coke and myself, we are totally locked and loaded. We're super excited and ready to go. A lot of today, I bought a green screen. I got a new light. I'm spending some money on some stuff, guys. So I'm trying to make everything better, right? I don't have a professional studio, so I'm making best of what I got, but that's not an excuse. We're gonna make our content awesome, and we're ready. We're gonna kick some serious ass in 2026, man. Woo! I am so pumped up. I've had some coffee, I've had an energy drink, and now I've had some Dr. Pepper. I'm freaking out over here. I hope you guys are freaking out, because the first phase is always so important. You got to really nail it. Got to get the energy right. X tried to rug me, didn't let it happen. Let's party, you guys. Let's freaking party. Chad, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Enjoyed my time off for the holidays and such. New year, 2026. Lots of opportunities, lots of things to be working on. I know I started working on some new hotness for THORChain in the last like week or two, and got some things coming.
Well, man, okay. That sounds like some drip. That sounds like some drippy news. What do you got for us, brother?
So I took the time, like I had some kind of a lot more spare time this during the holiday season than I typically do in my average week. But so I took the extra time to start poking around at some like AI stuff for THORChain. So there's two things that I'm actively working on. One is a custom like chat GBT for the THORChain community, and that can be integrated. It has its own website you can go to and log in and ask questions about like block explorer questions or documentation questions or even questions with the code base. Like that'll work as well. But you can do it through there. Well, I was talking to Kenton earlier about maybe throwing out kind of like a little like chat kind of bot window on the THORChain website. So if you're like going to the website and you want to learn more, there's like a chat interface. You can just like ask any questions you want about THORChain and it'll do its best to answer them. And then I'm maybe even integrating it into like our Discord, so you can like ask questions like, "Oh, when's the next churn?" or whatever, like any random questions you might want to ask. It has access to like the full kind of Midgard and Thor node and like real time data and like documentation and everything. So you could ask more or less any question. Of course, it's an LLM, so there is the opportunity for hallucinations, right? So I wouldn't be making trades or sending funds anywhere based upon the responses you get from this thing for obvious reasons. Do always do your own research. Don't let that be like your only source of information. But that's one thing I've been working on. I have a prototype working at this moment, but there's a lot more work to be done, of course. And the other thing I started working on actually this week was trying to play around with building a fully autonomous AI developer for the THORChain code base. So it's already gone through the code base to find issues or bugs or potentially vulnerabilities or whatever it can find, and it's found like a bunch of things. I don't know how much of these things are actually legit real and what are hallucinations, but they were starting to go through that process. So it's found a bunch of things that's kind of documented in a way, and then there's got three PRs that it has open at any given time. So it's constantly, as soon as one PR gets closed or merged or whatever, a new one is automatically just created. So it's doing that full process of like discovering issues or discovering, potential bugs, and then even opening up a code change to resolve that thing. Of course, humans have to be involved with like the approval process and validating the issue and all that kind of stuff. So it's not fully autonomous in that sense, and nor will it be fully autonomous in that sense for a long time. To be honest, with you, years at minimum. But that's the second thing I wanted to do. The third thing I wanted to do is to be like autonomously like monitoring mainnet and looking at logs, looking at events, looking at metrics, looking at data, looking for weird things that look awry, or anomalous kind of activity or something like this, and try to flag things, and maybe even open up a pull request to fix whatever the thing is that it just happened to discover on mainnet, which is really cool. And the fourth thing I want to get to do at some point is to start reviewing the developer's code, human code, to be just another set of eyes, in addition to the ones we already have, of course, not in replace of, but in addition to. Um, Put all that together, and we're kind of engaging more with the kind of like the potential of AI on the protocol. Um, Whether this stuff is how effective this stuff is, how much value it brings to the code base or to the community, to the devs, whatever, is yet to be seen. We might be a little bit ahead of the curve here, and the models just aren't quite up to snuff in some sense. But I kind of heard this really interesting thing from Boris Cherny, who is the guy behind Claude Code, which is probably arguably the most prevalent AI coding interface out there today. And he had some really interesting advice he was given to him. It was like he said, like, when you're building Claude Code, like, don't build around what the models can do today. Build around what the models can do, like, maybe in 6 months or so. So even if the models aren't that strong right now, getting like the framework kind of built and functioning, is a kind of a good kind of way of like, getting ahead of the curve. And as the models get better, the tools get better, the harnesses get better over time, over the next 12 months, let's say, of 2026. We'll just automatically pull in that value, and just this AI autonomous developer would be more and more effective, and more productive, and adding more and more value to us as a community.
Yeah, I did see that. I shared it, guys, above. I believe it is the Hugin bot. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes. Right. Hugin, which is one of the characters from Norse mythology, has to do with intelligence. Represents intelligence within Norse mythology, which is why I chose that name.
If you are listening to the recording in the space, you can see a picture of the Hugin bot, of some of the PRs it did, or the GitLab submissions, under the THORChain comment section. But yeah, that was really cool. Actually, I was chatting with a node operator, and he was fascinated by that. So, dude, that's very, very exciting.
Yeah, it's cool as hell. I mean, I'd be fascinated to see how effective it is. Like, it's already merged. One PR has been merged from Hugin, but that particular PR, like, it was more like a false positive, about a bug that didn't actually really exist. But to be fair, like, the bug, it did exist in some sense, but it didn't, because of some sort of nuance that's kind of like hard to see. Like, if you don't have, like, trained eyes, in a sense. So we ended up just like having it change its PR to just add a comment to the code to make it more clear and more obvious, which in itself, that just makes it, the code more readable, legible, if not just for us, but for future, AI agents in the future, to more deeply understand what the code is doing in that moment. So it didn't really contribute a lot of like a huge change, but it did find something that like could have been documented a little bit more cleanly, and added that documentation, and carrying on to the next thing.
So, can this thing, is it getting better on its own, or does that require input from you to make it better?
That's a good question. So in the current moment, it requires input from me. There's 2 points of way it gets better. One is like the models, or the Claude, tool itself becomes smarter and better over time, which will naturally happen without, me doing jack shit. So that's one thing. The other thing is, like, I could have, and I've been thinking about doing this, where it will monitor its own logs, and as it sees like errors being printed or whatever in its own logs, it will just generate its own code change to fix itself, which is such a crazy kind of meta. If you think about it, it's like a funny like meta notion of like, it monitors itself, and then fixes itself, and improves itself. And I was even thinking about having it like, go through procedures to offer suggestions and features that it can kind of prop up, in a sense, and elevate to somebody like myself. And then I could say, oh, that's a really good idea, go ahead, make that happen, right? Or I can say, no, that's a dumb idea, don't do that, that's silly, and obviously, throw it on the ground. So, like, it's in this current moment, it does autonomously become smarter through Claude. But I was interested in the idea of like having it kind of monitor itself, and improve itself. But this is like early days, right? This is just starting just now, so it's going to take a quarter or two to get it more solid in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of potential, right? I mean, you could have one of these things, okay, one is, submitting things to GitLab, and then you can have another AI agent that helps node operators diagnose problems if they've got, I mean,
Right.
right, there's a lot of things that, would you use the same bot, or would you use a different name bot, or what do you think?
It's all going to be the same identity. Technically, it's different. Like for example, when it's looking through the code base for bugs or issues or security issues or whatever, there's actually 14 eight sub agents that's being used to do that analysis. So there's like a bunch of different agents being used, even that one aspect, one of the four aspects, it's using 14 agents. So like there's a lot of technically there's a lot of like things happening, but it just uses the same kind of identifier of Hugon, just so it's simple and clean and not confusing as hell for the community.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Kenton, do you got anything?
I'm just curious, would there be any value in getting transcripts from these spaces to train the AI on? And the reason I'm
You
asking
could. Yeah,
is
you definitely could do that. I don't know if like this the Hugin probably wouldn't get any value from that, but the other AI thing I was mentioned earlier, the kind of like, custom GPT for the THORChain community, that you could. So right now it's just trained on like the official documentation, but we could add like, the blog posts that we've posted in the past, and that we could take the transcripts from these Thor spaces, add that into it so it gets trained on all that information and data as well.
because that's part of with the co helping us here is that Thorchin intern, he's actually volunteered to edit the SRT files for us so that we have like, especially like words like Thorchain and Rune, they get
Mhm,
spelled wrong, get those all spelled right, get everything correct. And
mhm.
so we'll do that on like today's space going forward, basically. But I've been wondering if it's worth it to start going through the backlog, go through all our old spaces and get those all done. And then if that would be good for training AI on or not. I don't know.
Yeah,
What do you
I think it would be in some sense, but it wouldn't be in another sense. Like for example, like the protocol changes over time. So a space that, you had me or you saying something, 6 months ago, maybe was true at that moment, but today it's not so true, right? And we also don't want to like, we want to minimize false information, whenever we can, whether it's hallucinated or whatever. So that's a kind of a hard line to draw in a sense. Is it better just to kind of like just give it the fire hose of all the things, or what, or is it better not to? And that's an opinion, subjective perspective that you can have or I can have, and I don't have a clear answer, to be honest, off the top of my head, but I'm open to thoughts and ideas.
Well, my smooth brain would think AI would at least be smart enough to read the date of its content to kind of
You'd
help
think, but like,
organize it.
but
It's
at
not?
the same time, it's like you can ask, OpenAI, ChatGPT to like, how many R's are in strawberry, and it'll say two, right? you like it's so funny how AI is like it's so brilliant in some ways and incredibly stupid in other ways, and so it's very unpredictable and unreliable in terms of like its consistency and its intelligence and its reliability. I think that's like one of the biggest problems with LLMs now. It doesn't matter if it's Anthropic or OpenAI or Gemini or whatever. They're all kind of like this, and it's an ongoing kind of like computational science question of like how do we filter out, you know, stupid shit like that, or hallucinating, things that didn't occur, or whatever. It's an ongoing thing that somebody's going to solve it at some point. I know there's a lot of money being thrown at AI today. There's like an incredible amount of money being thrown at AI today, so we're more prone to solve this problem today than we have ever been in our human history, just because of the capital that's being thrown at it. But yeah, it's kind of hard. It's too unreliable to make assumptions like that.
Well, it's kinda well, like you said earlier, don't build for what it is today, build for what it'll be
Sure.
tomorrow,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
So that was kinda what I was thinking is, I wonder if it is good to have, like, all of as much THORChain data as we can on our site, and then that way, like, the AIs of tomorrow, when they go read our site, like, everything's there, all the content, and, basically, like, our entire, THORChain intellectual capital, everything that's online that exists is there for AI to read.
Right.
And Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
wondering if it's
you
worth
can
a
make that argument too of like that all of this AI, whether whatever model it is trained on the basically all of the internet, right? And there's lots of things on the internet that are false or aged information that is no longer true, and but it's still trained on that information nonetheless. You can make that argument.
yeah. Um, but yeah, something I'm thinking about whether we should do. Well, actually, let me ask you guys this. Maybe sorry to be a bit of a tangent. Um, when we update correct the SRT files and transcripts, I was thinking about doing a blog post of the transcript, and because not a lot of people prefer to read instead of listen, and so I
Mhm.
don't know if some people would prefer to actually read the transcript of these spaces, and then also it's their training for AI. So I don't know what do you guys think on that? Should we post these
Yeah, that'd be
transcripts as a
interesting.
blog post?
I think it'd be interesting even to have if you want to read reading of chatter back and forth of like that was 2 or 3 hours might be kind of a long read in some sense, and kind of you know not very well structured. Of course, you could just like have the full transcript out there, but then also have like an AI summarization in addition to that. Like if you want to read just like the summary or like the kind of Cliff Notes version, you can read the Cliff Notes version, or you can just read every line for line.
The post could start with the TLDR,
Yeah, you
and
can do a TLDR. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and then below that have the full one,
yeah,
if people want to dig deeper. 'Cause in theory, honestly, it shouldn't take that long to create that. Like the hard part is editing the transcript. Once that's done, it's just kind of copy and pasting.
yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah. Absolutely.
I'm going to interject real quick, you guys, because we have something that I'm very, very excited about. One of the things that I am always harping on, I'm so excited, is increasing the decentralization of the network. I think about this all the time. And big shout out to people like RuneTard. And I know there are other node operators too that do this as well. And a lot of them wish to remain anonymous. So I will not say them, but I will say thank you to you and you know who you are. We do have a speaker up here, guys. We have a brand spanking new node operator that has joined THORChain. DFire, do you want to check your mic there, my friend? How you doing?
Hi guys, thank you for the introduction. Is my mic working?
You sound absolutely beautiful, and I thank you very, very much for taking this on. I ask this all the time, so does Kenton. Right? Anyone out there who wants to be a node operator, please come and join. Hey, I'll give you the floor for a little bit. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, buddy?
Yeah, so in the crypto space for a long time, um, owner of a web agency, building web applications and stuff, but always interested in crypto. In crypto, when it really was about decentralization. Early Bitcoin adapter. Well, first Litecoin on Bitcoin Wisdom, and then moved on to Bitcoin. And always stayed close into the crypto space, but never actually ran a node before except for the LTO network, which wasn't a big success, to be honest. More so because of the project. And now looking more from moving into being a node operator for THORChain and bringing some more decentralization. Love to chat about AI. I've been busy with AI nonstop for the past half year and trying to introduce it into my company. So I have agentic flows running that also monitor websites, applications, do pull requests with bug fixes, go through backlogs and all that. Several rec databases. So just, I don't want to be too taggy, but I was wondering, Chat, like, what's the orchestrator that you're using? Like, is it LangChain? Is it Crew AI? Is it something else
Orchestrator on which thing?
on the different separate agents that you're running?
Oh, for the like the developer side of things?
Yeah, exactly. Because you were
Yeah, yeah.
mentioning like there are 14 running.
Yeah, that's all done through that stuff is all done through Claude.
Ah,
There
okay.
are
Yeah.
there are some like the code analysis goes through it. I think it goes through Gemini for a few reasons. And then the documentation kind of like indexing and reading goes through an open source project that you know that indexes
Okay.
PDF files and that kind of thing.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So I'm also I invested in some GPUs. So I'm also running the models myself, like Minimax M21 and DevStral, Mixtral,
Hmm.
those kind of models.
Hmm.
And a very interesting conclusion that I found out is there's this website called Stupidity Level or Stupidity Info, and these models that you can access through the API, like Gemini and Cloud Code, they will be more stupid or more smart depending on the time of day that you give them an assignment. Probably because the companies are just like throttling the intelligence when there's a lot more traffic and demand for them. So you see them varying in benchmarks on the same subject. So there was a big reason for us to start running the models ourselves.
Is this AI stupid level.info? Is that the website?
Yeah, that's the one.
I haven't seen this before.
It's pretty funny to keep an eye on, and especially if you have like a functional test or unit test with some acceptance tests,
Hmm. Hmm.
and you like keep monitoring them during the day or the week, you will see differences when
Oh,
you
interesting.
are using an external API. Yeah. Just that was a bit of a strange introduction, but hi guys, happy to be here.
No, you're
Yeah,
good, man. Go ahead,
I'm
Chad. Sorry.
curious about the open source models. Like right now, I'm just using these kind of hosted models like Anthropic or
Hmm.
whatever,
Yeah.
because they're readily available and convenient. I'm looking to get this thing going rather than going the long road. But I was considering the idea of like buying physical boxes and setting them up, like build like a little AI super cluster, whatever you want to
Hmm.
call it, and maybe running like Quen or like Kimi or one of these like kind of
Yeah.
open source ones. Just because it's like it probably I'm assuming it would be cheaper to do that. Although I haven't done any kind of like cost analysis quite yet, but I would presume that would be the case.
Yeah. So I can give you some info around it. I've been following the market pretty closely. And of course, the SSD prices and RAM prices, and therefore GPU prices, they are like crazy at the moment.
Hmm.
But I think the most affordable option would be like waiting on the Mac Studio M5 if it's like for a hobby project.
Hmm.
If you're a bit more serious, well, there are all kind of GPU cards, but the most entry level now, which still would be like bleeding edge, would be like a Blackwell GPU with
Hmm. Hmm.
96 gigabyte of VRAM, and that would allow you to run like Minimax M21 and then like the quantized 6.4 version at
Hmm.
about like 30 tokens per second generation, which is plenty of enough speed if it's like for background work
Yeah, yeah,
and it's not like on demand live answering stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and so that's also my own setup. I have Minimax M21 doing the deeper work or the thinking work. There is GOM 4.7 and DeepSeek that can help with that.
Hmm.
But they perform a little bit less in terms of speed and in
Right,
terms of intelligence and the tasks that I give them. It doesn't really matter anymore. It's at solid level anyway when you compare it to Claude.
right. Yeah,
So
but
yeah,
Claude's hard to beat. They're doing so well over there at Anthropic. The
yeah, for sure.
models like
Yeah,
Opus 4.5 is pretty impressive.
agree. And maybe it's like I'm new to the node operator stuff. I haven't used micro-K8s before, but all these tools were such an help, and I've been collecting a pretty extensive collection of Markdown files with all my achievements, checkpoints, failures while
Hmm.
setting up the node. And that's just such a good resource now for my local AI to help me out
Yeah.
when something is not in sync. And I'm still not turned in because I was responsible for one of the key generation failures.
Hmm.
So I collected 4 slash points now, but I'm pretty confident the next one will be a lot better.
There you go. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting segue right there. So, you are a new node operator, so it's fresh in your mind. What are some things? Because there's going to be people listening to this who are training node operators. From your perspective, coming into this, what are things that maybe we can do better to make on ramping node operators a more efficient and easier process?
That's a good question with multiple ways to answer. Like the hardest part for me was like first the decision, as in what hardware to get. And that's different when you start fresh compared to like when you have something lying around idle. So that's one. It was pretty hard to find what the exact hardware requirements were because there were a lot of guides available, and some were already a little bit outdated. And to be honest, I have bought multiple NVMe disks after I bought my initial server, just because I kept running out of space. Um, and I guess there's just multiple sources and ways on how to do it. Like you can use Docker or those microcades or different solutions. And just getting up to speed and understanding the pros and cons and how close or how confident I will be able to manage it was just a lot of research. Um, it's so I think having all these guides is really, really a good help, and I couldn't have done it without them. But at the same time, they're not all saying the same stuff, and not all information is up to date. So that sometimes gives you a bit of a curveball.
What
An,
guide
an
would you?
example, yeah, sorry, as an example, and I've been talking about this a little bit in the Discord, is like, do you use the Ubuntu long-term supported version, that 22, I believe, or do you use the 24 version? And there are mixed opinions on what to
Always
use.
long, always long. There's rarely an instance where it makes sense to use the short.
Yeah, so I went with the long.
Yeah, yeah, no. You want stability above everything else. Stability is most important.
Yeah. Yeah. And those would be perfect questions, I guess, that an AI bot indeed would be able to answer
Yeah.
if it's trained on some good database. And I don't know if you know OpenWebUI, but you can easily put in all kind of documentation and resources in there
Mhm.
and force it to answer with only answers from that documentation as a source, indicating where it got its information. And that prevents like almost all hallucination in answering questions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I encourage everyone, please, who are listening to this live, please follow DFire, a new node operator. Very, very cool. If you would please click on his account, give him a good follow. This guy's worked very hard for us. For those who are listening to the recording, his at handle on X is at DFire. That's DE fire underscore movement. DFire underscore movement. Okay, very cool. Thank you for that, DFire. I'm curious, if you could give a summary on, what is your ethos? Like, why are you here? What are your views like on privacy, permissionless? Like, what butters your bread about THORChain, if you will? Like, why are you here?
It's you, Patriot Sounds. You butters bread.
No, buddy.
No, I think the most important thing is like it always I always was annoyed a little bit that there wasn't a good way to natively swap Bitcoin. Uh, that's that's what got me interested in THORChain in the first place. And I'm all for decentralization. Like I do feel like you should file your taxes and all that, but I also think we should have a choice on where we keep our assets and where we swap it and how everything works. And I don't like centralization. I want to give people a choice about their life and their assets.
Uh, Succinct and perfect. I love it. Kenton, do you have anything for DFire by chance?
You stole the question out of my mouth. That's what I want to ask him too. Are you a DeFi? So how long have you been following Thorchain? Like how long you been a rune holder? Like how? Well, yeah. What? Tell us about your journey in Thorchain.
So I think, and this is pretty recent, I would say that I'm closely following THORChain in just a few years. So first I had RUNE for a longer time, but that was more from coming from a trading perspective and a trading background. I would have to look at the charts to pinpoint it. But yeah, we saw the move from what was it, about 80 cents to $7, $8, somewhere around there. Um, Before that, I was positioned, but it was more from a trading perspective than being actually really deep into THORChain. But because I want to know what I'm trading, started more diving into THORChain. I was alerted by it by friends sparring about THORChain and the future about DeFi. So it stuck. Yeah.
So then, and what happened now? What changed now that you went from just trading Rune to now being a node operator? Like it seems like, in my mind, being a node operator, like you're a bit more committed to the long term and the potential, and so yeah.
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 I don't see THORChain going anywhere. I mean, it has a solid track record, and I just don't want to spend resources and time on a project there where I don't see longevity. And I think THORChain has an amazing community, an active community, and with the current price action, I think this is the time to build and prepare and increase the decentralization of the network to prepare for the years to come. So it's more like a good timing that I can devote my time towards it.
Nice. So the I assume you're aware of like the events from January and February with Thorfi and Bybit.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
obviously did not turn you off or push you away. Um,
I went to the Luna Terra stuff as well. I went to MintPal, for anyone who still knows MintPal, one of the early altcoin exchanges that just disappeared overnight. So I'm kind of used to that kind of stuff in crypto. So no, it didn't turn me off, and I think that there were the right intentions around THORChain and behind THORChain. So that's positive.
Yeah.
nice.
We're here to solve a problem, right? We're here to solve the biggest problem, and it's just been one big long learning journey. And I love what you said. Thorchain definitely is not going anywhere, and I hope you guys are excited because I know I am with Ruggira. We have a lot of Rugirans listening to this. You know, the whole DeFi suite, permissionless, no KYC, open source, and then you have that redacted element as well, where it's going to be an entirely private area, like you're right. This is the new standard, and it's time to go. And then Rujira, I said earlier that the 15th is when the caps on lending will go away. I need to correct that mildly. I think the 16th is when the bug I don't know if it's bug bounty or what do you call it, but that ends, and then assuming everything is okay, then the caps will be lifted thereafter. That might be slightly inaccurate. I do apologize to the Rogerian listeners if I got that wrong, but very soon, otherwise, very, very soon. So I think you're getting in at a perfect time, DeFi. And given the price of Rune, if there's anyone out there who's listening to this, whether it's live or recording, and if you want to be a node operator, there is no better time to acquire Rune and get turned in than right now. I highly, highly encourage you to do it. And we will go above and beyond to get you on board. Increasing the decentralization of THORChain is so unbelievably paramount. It's so important because the technology we're building is wildly powerful. Just think about it. I mean, like banks, everything. This is everything is better what we're building here. And the privacy element too. That's what I think is going to really get eyes. Probably eyes from people who are not going to be thrilled with us, but it is what it is, and we have to free the world. So that's what we're going to do. So dude, thank you so much. I'm just so happy. Oh, and then additionally, I forgot, guys. I don't know who they are, but I saw another node operator as well build their node. So I don't know who they are, but if you hear that, welcome. And if you want to come on a space, please reach out. I will I'll get you hooked up. So So yeah, sorry, I was a bit of a tangent there, but yeah, DFAR, you got anything else for us, man? Are you talking? You're muted, buddy. If you're talking, did we lose him? We might have lost him. Well, you guys know how X is.
Yeah,
He's playing Halo.
sorry. Yeah, I'm still here. That mute button, I had to find it. No, I'm happy to to listen in and sit back. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present myself and talk with you guys directly. Appreciate it. I will focus on getting the node completely stable and churned in, and looking forward to participate more. And if there's any AI stuff you want to spar with or I can help with, please let me know. I'm available.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Very, very cool. Oh, I'm in such a good mood right now, guys. This is just makes me so happy. Okay, Chad. Do you got anything else? I know we have the what is it going to be, the 15th, I think. I might be wrong about that, when the next update or gets pushed for THORChain, and then
Uh,
maybe I'm wrong about that. I'm sorry if I am.
yeah, no, I think the 15th is a date, but I can't remember off the top of my mind. Excuse me. I can't remember off the top of my head what if that was like when we do the cut. I think it's when we do the cut on the 15th.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. Maybe it's a 20. It's a next week. I think it may be what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think we're gonna launch 15 on the 21st, so that's about 2 weeks away, a little less than 2 weeks.
And just a reminder for the audience, I haven't looked at it in a while myself, but there's going to be some fixes to limit swaps. Um,
Yes.
and then when those go live, let's just assume everything's going well. Let's say you nailed it, everything is looking great, normal behavior, healthy. Would it be maybe a couple months after that when rapid swaps will go live, or what would you say on that?
Well, rapid stops can be turned on anytime. Technically, they could be turned on right now if we really saw fit. But I probably, if everything goes smooth, I would like to see like maybe like 30 days of smooth activity for limit swaps, and I would also like to see like a decent amount of volume passing through limit swaps, typically through arbitrage bots. The reason why that is that like it's the limit swaps that really give rapid swaps the ability to be so rapid. Without that, you'd have to be reliant on somebody else coincidentally swapping the opposite direction of your swap, and they just happen to align, in time and space in a way that's convenient. And while that's totally possible, who knows? But you could launch it before, I suppose, especially after the change we were making in 315 about its logic. But yeah, I think for me, I'd like to see like 30 days of limit swaps being running smoothly, and we have a decent amount of volume passing through it. And then I would feel confident to flip on rapid swaps and start testing that out.
Okay. And Kenton, for you, is the STO, is it on standby? Do they have it built out like an interface for limit swaps? And then once it's, we determine it's good, that's something people can play. Because I know people were requesting that they wanted an interface that they could try and play with it.
I think it's going to be like a part of the current interface. I think they're just going to make it, trying to integrate it in the existing one instead of having a standalone.
Mm,
If there's anything standalone, it'd be like a way to display the order book, to see what your open orders are. But I haven't, I've only seen mock-ups. I haven't actually been able to play with anything or see anything yet.
yeah.
Um, and then also too, guys, remember, as always, whatever goes live at first doesn't mean it's set in stone, right? Based on feedback, problems, whatever, it all can get tweaked and changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
sorry, I was going to mention for the next update there something you didn't mention is Solana. It's
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
supposed to come out on 315, and I'll just read what Cal said. Give me a second here. There will be a 2-week period for operators to sign up for RPC providers and indicate their provider via Mimir. Solana will go live once we have over 90% of nodes indicating their providers with sufficient variety coverage, targeting the first week of February. So, um, yeah, sounds like Solana is finally happening.
Yeah, hopefully that'll be done this month. If everything goes to plan. I think Zcash is next after Solana.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Um,
The other thing in 315, there's a couple more things that are like smaller but still kind of interesting. One is there's probably going to be a node vote in the coming week or two, whatever it is, to vote on like I forget even what the Mimir is called off the top of my head, but it's that if the amount of rune in the reserve exceeds this number, whatever the number is, then it gets secreted as block as it's not really block rewards per se. I'm not sure that's an accurate way of describing it, but it's the reserve makes a little bit of money here and there, so that the amount of rune in the reserve is just like constantly going up. And that's just kind of like basically it's kind of conceptually similar to a burn, sort of. Um, but I think the intention is to change it so that like if the reserve makes a little money, the money just comes right back into the system income, so that it should kind of bump the income that nodes and LPs are making by about 5%. That's one thing that's happening in the next couple weeks after 315 comes out. And then the other thing was um, we're going to start experimenting, not experimenting, but monitoring more closely about like how much over solvency there is. Like, we probably have a little bit too much Bitcoin, a little bit too much Ethereum, a little bit too much this, a little bit too much that, that we've kind of collected over the years through bugs, through people doing weird transactions that just kind of got got locked up in the middle of nowhere, so to speak. And so that will be kind of secreted back into I think it goes to system income from my memory, but maybe hopefully I'm not wrong about that. It's been a while since I've looked at that code, but so that will be kind of also secreted back into as system income for the nodes as well to kind of help boost the yield a little bit. So there's a little bit each block. It's not going to be like a big rush of a bunch of money, in block one, whatever, but it'll just start to kind of like, eat away at the over solvency of the protocol and just kind of add that to the system income just to boost profits for people.
When we say system income, does that mean it goes to like the 5% dev fund, 5% marketing, with like
Yes.
everyone? Okay.
Yeah. So system income, historically, system income is referred to two things. One is like the income that's made predominantly from swaps, and also the block rewards. We turned the block rewards off, a year ago, whatever the hell the number was. So that's no longer part of the system income. So right now, system income is entirely just through profits from, swaps and whatnot. There may be a couple other sources of income, but they're like very small and non-significant. And then we take that and we take 5% goes to marketing and 5% goes to dev fund and this goes, and then the rest goes to the, nodes and LPs and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. And then the TCY. Yes, absolutely.
And the TCY, of course.
Yep. And someone asked me, I can't remember who it was. This was a question a while ago. The treasury's finite, of course. And they were wondering your thoughts. We probably talked about this earlier, but it's been a few weeks, about having a mechanism in THORChain where nodes can toggle it, where you can have a percentage of the total system income go to POL that could be directed towards one pool or the other. Has there been any thought about that for a while or anything like that? Because how Treasury seeds the pools to start.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, we haven't had that much conversation on this topic, of kind of having, another kind of percent or something that nodes can vote to redirect some of the system income to the POL or even the treasury. We might have that conversation with the community at some point. There's no push or drive for that in this particular moment, but anything can happen more or less. But for right now, I don't think there's much of a need for it. I think the treasury is pretty healthy right now, if I'm not mistaken. I don't really pay that close attention to the treasury, to be honest with you. I'm more technical than financial necessarily. So, but from my understanding, from what I can recall, last time I spoke to somebody about it, it seemed like it was in a pretty healthy state. So we don't really need the money right now, but who knows? That might change in the future.
gotcha. Okay. Kenton, did you have anything?
yeah, maybe just I was thinking about when Boone brought up burning, you know, the reserve or most of it. And at first I was like, no, we shouldn't. We should hold on to it just in case, blah blah blah. And then I'm like, I started, you know, I always like whenever I say something like after the fact, I'll daydream and reflect and think about what I said about certain things, and then I'm like,
Mhm.
I think I actually answered. I don't like my answer to that. Um, I think I think I do like the idea of burning the reserve or a big chunk of it, and just getting the token supply number down. And it doesn't mean we can't reverse it. That we can't turn around and go back, add new tokens back to the reserve or do whatever. Like,
Mhm.
you know, the more I think about THORChain like a business, like a stock, companies issue new shares all the time. They're always changing their capital structure, right? They'll they'll take on more dilution if they think it's beneficial for the long term value of the company. And I see no reason why THORChain can't operate the same way. Like we'll keep the token supply low, and then when we need if we need new tokens, we create them. But in the meantime, we just keep the numbers low and just make it look cleaner. Because I've already actually yesterday I was talking to a financial advisor about his clients are interested in crypto, and he wants to. I was telling him about THORChain, pitching him on it, and blah blah blah, and he's got a big book. Like it's a decent prospect as far as like introducing capital to THORChain. And that was one of his questions was like the token supply, right? And then
Mhm.
I had to explain, well, the 500 million, that's actually a Mimir setting. And then we have the reserve, but there's no block rewards. So that's not really dilution. And it's like, I have to explain so much. It'd just be so much easier if I could just say, no, the total supply is at 350 million right now, whatever. It's the same as, you know what I mean? It just saves so much
Mhm.
like explaining. And
Mhm.
so yeah, I think I kind of did a 180. I think I kind of agree with everyone about burning the reserve if we don't need it right now, and then just add it when we do.
Yeah, the problem is adding when we do is it's easier to burn than it is to mint. Like getting the community around burning the rune is probably an easier task than convincing them to mint back the 74 million or whatever the number is we want to mint back whenever we want to mint it back. It's a difficult task to convince the nodes and whatnot to do. Um, to me, I don't see a strong difference between one or the other, burning or not burning. Like the amount of space between those 2 points is quite small, in my opinion. So I don't really have a strong opinion in either direction. I think the question that comes to me is two parts. One is it worth the engineering time to actually take the action and burn it all, which would require a code change or two. And the second question is like, well, if we do want to use that reserve for something in the future, whatever that might be, we're going to have a harder time achieving that goal when it's burnt versus when it's not burnt. Like, how much easier or harder is it to convince the community to, use 10 million rune for this purpose, whatever this thing is, if the rune's already burnt and have we to mint it back. I just see that as more difficult to achieve whatever that is. And if we actually do want to use 10 million rune hypothetically to do something, it's probably going to be important, and I'd like to make that as easy as we can to have the result we want.
Do you think
Yeah.
it being difficult might be a good thing because it forces the idea of what we want to use it for? Like it's got to be a really good idea where we do have consensus. Um,
Yeah, I mean, you can make that argument. That's a fair argument to make. Sure. Um, yeah.
one
I
if
mean,
it,
it's the thing about Bitcoin. Like, it's very hard to change anything in Bitcoin, right? Like, if you wanted to increase the 21 million cap on Bitcoin to 25 hypothetically, right? It's like it would be nearly impossible to do, right? And you can argue like it should be nearly impossible to do. Like that difficulty is a feature, not a bug. You can make that argument, you know. But I don't know. It's so hard to speak in hypotheticals because we don't. If we did want to use 10 million rune or whatever the quantity might be for some purpose, like I don't know what that purpose is, and I don't know how critically important it is that we have it, you know? So it's kind of hard to answer those questions.
Would if sticking with your hypothetical, if we want to use 10 million RIN for something, wouldn't that still require like a code change? Like if we're going to pull it out of the reserve, like it wouldn't be just as
Yes,
difficult?
right. Well, the code change to burn the rune is separate from the code change to take 10 million out and do something with it, like throw it at the POL, for example, or whatever it is, right? Those are two separate code changes. So in that scenario where you spent a code change to burn it all, and then you do another code change, when at some point in the future to mint 10 million back. But to be fair, like I don't want to be sound like I'm like dramatizing. Like both of these code changes aren't complicated ones. They're not. It's not hard in terms of like the code. They could only take you less than an hour to code it out. What takes the time is just like getting the reviews and back and forth, and it would just take months for it to actually happen.
Yeah, and what I meant was if we have the reserve existing right now, 70 some million rune, if we wanted to
Mhm.
pull 10 million out of that, itself would require a code change, right? That would still,
Correct.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would require code change, and that would require like Um, I probably wouldn't even do it as a like, I'd probably do it as a two-parter, like, if I actually wanted to do something like this, like, there would be a code change to be able to extract out some amount of rune to some address or whatever it is, and then there would have to be, in addition to that, a vote so that nodes can vote specifically on this idea versus voting on the code change itself, which is like version 3.20 or whatever the future version is. I generally try to avoid nodes, rejecting a version of the code because they don't like, minting 10 million rune or whatever. I like to keep that as a separate thing that you can accept the code of them having the ability to take out, 10 million rune without and have a separate vote you know, to actually take out the 10 million or whatever.
Yeah, I agree. I
Like an
agree.
eight,
Yeah.
it would be like an ADR vote or something like this,
Yeah. I agree. Like the update should be self-evident that everybody wants to implement. It shouldn't be like, if you don't want to do this update, you gotta like, stop being a node, right? Like that's not fair.
Yeah.
I'm curious because one of the things back in the day, right, we're much hardened. But I remember like 2022, 2023, we looked at the reserve as a means to help us in case that we had a terrible emergency or a bug. And I guess that is still the case. But I'm curious, let's just say hypothetically something crazy were to happen. And for
Mhm.
whatever reason, we need to pull out some millions of rune out of the reserve to buffer something or whatever. I don't care. And let's say like there's uniformity on the community. Everyone says, okay, this X happened. We got to do Y. We have an emergency space. We come up here. Everyone's like, yep, let's get it done. So, if we, how fast, like if we were just in like efficiency mode, emergency mode, 1 hour to code it, and how fast you think we could fast track? Because the community can be really fast. Like when Alex from my protocol did prop 6 TCY, it was amazing how quick the nodes rallied behind that once we figured it out. So
Yeah.
in that circumstance, what would you say, Chad? What would be our response time if you had to speculate? I know that's hard to do, but
So there's two aspects to like answer your question. One is the question of like deciding and voting as a community of what we're going to do or not do, right? And like prop 6 that the Maya team had helped to kind of put together, like deciding on prop 6 versus prop 3 or whatever. That was a fairly easy and fast thing because it didn't even require a code change at that time. It just required people to just vote, and on ADR 22 or whatever the hell the number was for that particular thing. So that can be done, really quick, like within 48 hours, hypothetically, right? The code change is a little bit different because it takes time to make whatever the code change is, take time to review that code, and then to get into the next release, which the next release happens, like generally speaking, once a month or so. We have agreements with centralized exchanges that we give them. I think it's like I can't remember if it's 1 week or 2 weeks, a heads up of a change before the change is adopted. So it gives them an ability or time to review the code changes if they want to, and see if it's going to be breaking their infrastructure in any way, shape, or form, for them to be a centralized exchange that's trading on Rune. So, like, if we even make the cut, we made the code change, we got it merged. Okay, we finally made the cut for version 3 dot whatever, whatever, and then we have to wait for a week or two for to just abide by the agreement we have with centralized exchanges, so that until it's actually released, and then it gets adopted by the community. So if we had like, barring some emergency situation where we can, bypass that week or 2 week thing, if there's something like crazy happening, like the entire network is paused or something like this, again, which did happen, a couple months ago with the bug and limit swaps, where the network kind of crashed. We were no longer producing blocks. We released an emergency patch, and it worked out within, I don't know how many hours it was, but it wasn't that many. Except for the scenarios like that, we have to wait, weeks for these things to be adopted. So the idea of getting something agreed upon, that can be done fairly quickly. Getting the actual change alive and running, that can take, typically a month, at minimum.
Yeah, I guess that's one thing that I'm just ignorant on because I'm not a developer is I mean, the network is stopped. There's not producing blocks. I mean, that you gotta get blocks going, right? But it's hard for me to parse in my mind the difference between pushing a patch real quick to fix something and then the difference of having to wait that agreed amount of time for thanks. But if there's no blocks being produced, obviously the chains you got to fix that, right? There's nothing really to be said there. So I
Right.
guess that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, in that scenario, nothing can be said. You have to get it out quick, for obvious reasons. And there's no choice there, you know. But even like, what's funny is like the average developer, and even developers who are listening to me right now will probably have a knee jerk reaction and say there's no way that's true. But the average developer like really codes about like 40 lines a day on average, and that's, to be honest, that's not a lot of lines. But if you include the process it takes to not just write the 40 lines, but to test it, to write tests for those 40 lines, to go through a review process, like you write the code on Monday, you write tests, maybe Monday as well, maybe a little bit on to Tuesday, you put a PR open, somebody gets to it on a Wednesday or a Thursday to do a review, they have comments, you go back on Friday to make some code changes, and then they come Monday again, and you have more, like, it takes, if you average it out, like the average PR is like probably like 300 lines on average, just globally with encoding in general, just a general rough number. And if you average it all out, like, it's like it averages out to be like 40 lines of code a day, which is like not that much. So sometimes these things could take a lot. Like, even like the intense feature, that that PR is like 15,000 lines of code. It's not a small code change at all. And I've been working on it, for I don't know how long now, like a month or two, I guess, probably 2 months, I guess, just to get that. And that's obviously a super massive PR. 15,000 lines is crazy big. Most of that comes from unit tests and regression tests to have to validate its correctness and its behaviors as much as possible, which is why there's so much testing around that particular feature. But it just, this stuff takes time, more so than you think, especially on a project like THORChain that's been around for so long. And it's a very mature code base, a very complicated and very mature code base. It's not like a brand new project where you can kind of like iterate quickly and, move fast and break things. You can't do that anymore. Not with this code base. You have to move slower than I would like to move.
Yeah, I do. And
If
go ahead, check. Go
sorry,
ahead, Tony.
interrupt your page here, but if you guys didn't, maybe you missed Chad's flex. I'm going to say it because he didn't. But 15,000 lines of code would take the average dev a year to write, and Chad's done it in a couple months. So there you go, man.
Well, I didn't mean to.
I know you didn't. I
I
know you
didn't mean it as
didn't.
like some kind of a flex or whatever. You know.
It's
No, no,
okay to
man. No,
flex.
no. We all know you're no, no. We all know you're awesome. So that's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I think this gives credence to your desire to add AI tooling to help find issues in the code base because of the complexity. And then,
Yeah.
if you pair the AI tooling with developer time, it should hopefully increase the average,
Yeah.
40 lines of whatever it is per day, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To
Mm-hmm.
be fair, like the intense feature has not fully been reviewed yet, right? So it's not that 40 lines is it's we're only like halfway through the process. So technically it's you said a year, whatever the number was you said, but it's only been 2 months, but it's probably going to be more like four, right? After the devs, review all and then make some iterations and changes and take into account their, feedback and it takes a long time.
Are
A
you
lot
going
of hours, a lot of time.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. Are you going to use a Hugen bot to test these new primitives as well? Like the intense feature, can you use it? And because it looks at the current code base, could you use it to war game it or whatever against new code
Yeah.
like that?
In some sense, yeah, like Hugin is predominantly powered by Claude, and Claude helped me write a lot of this code actually, especially around um, the tests and stuff. Like the reason why it's 15,000 lines is because Claude could help me generate a lot more unit tests, a lot more edge cases, for both unit tests, regression tests. I haven't even added any simulation tests. I'm not even sure if it's needed in this particular case, but something I want to talk to Ursa about. But um, that's one of the great things about this kind of AI kind of world is that you kind of almost code at the speed of thought, which is kind of crazy to say. It's a crazy notion, but you code almost at the speed of thought, and you can generate a lot more deeper and more thorough testing because of that. Because most humans, when we write unit tests, we most devs are pretty lazy about it, right? They test A and B, but they're like, forget about C and D, right? Like it's just a common thing that devs in general do. It's a trap we kind of all fall in, to varying degrees at varying times of our lives. But the AI stuff like helps us to generate a shit ton of code, testing code, especially to validate that all the behavior is, what we think the behavior should be. It's quite impressive. The negative is with this kind of AI coding is that like it can make really stupid mistakes. Things that don't make a lick of sense that no human developer would ever have made that particular mistake. And so the way you have to handle this stuff is that you have to put the human and the AI together, and you kind of catch each other's stupidity in one form or another, the result is a better result when you have the human and the AI collaboratively working together, you know. So that's where we're heading. But to be fair, in the long term, as the AI gets smarter and smarter, and humanity doesn't really get smarter and smarter, it's more so static relative to AI at least. There will come a time in a day when the AI is literally a smarter developer than I am. I actually saw a poll this past week of um, this guy asked his community who are like involved with AI development, and he said like, "Do you think that Claude Opus 4.5 is a better developer than you are as a human?" And 61% of them said yes. 61% of people who replied to that actually thought that the Claude Opus was actually a better developer than they are, which is kind of a crazy idea. I mean, I would have never guessed that, 12 months ago, if that would be the people who respond that kind of way. Really, like Claude's actually really bright in a lot of ways, but it's really dumb in a lot of ways. So I wouldn't say it's anywhere close to as smart of a developer as myself is, or even any of the other developers on our team. But that will change over time for sure, and there will come a day when like this AI is quintessentially just not only a better developer than me, but a better developer than the collective of our entire development team combined. Like that will happen one day. I don't know if it's probably at minimum 2030, if not 2035. It's gonna take a while to get there, but we'll get there eventually.
Um, Opinion on AI node operators. How feasible or not feasible? It's definitely feasible in the future, but do you think we're close to those days or getting there? Would you say?
Um, AI node operators. I think it's not as that's actually fairly easy to do, relatively speaking, because you're not really managing code in the traditional sense. I mean, technically you're managing Kubernetes code, but to have Claude autonomously just monitor your Kubernetes cluster and look for daemons that are like offline, or or some problem with CPU spikes. I don't know, whatever it is. Monitoring X, Y, or Z, and then restarting pods or whatever. That's feasible to do, and we already have some mechanisms that are in place that kind of already do that, right? Like Kubernetes itself will monitor pods and see when pods are unresponsive to like health checks and whatnot. And then like if they're kind of like freezing up or whatever, Kubernetes itself will autonomously just like kick that pod and like restart it, so to speak. They actually delete the pod, technically speaking, but for our conversation, we'll call it restart. That's more accurate to what people think about the word. Um, you can get there. I would say it has just less value, to be honest with you. Like the Kubernetes cluster kind of manages and runs itself pretty well on its own, and you always be weary about AI like Claude or whatever touching a production network without humans involved, because I think as much as it can help, it can be just as powerful in the negative kind of sense as well, and start, you know, like deleting your entire like node, your Thor node entirely, and just like kicking the can, and just destroying the whole thing. That's unlikely to happen, but totally possible. So you have to kind of weigh the pros and the cons. Having an AI developer, that like AI autonomous developer, is, there's not really much risk to that, because humans are involved. Like it doesn't merge code without any humans involved. Like that would be quite irresponsible to do. But it can't destroy mainnet, in that sense. That's not practical for it to do. So you could do it for running nodes, but I'm not sure how valuable that would actually be, to be honest.
Okay, yeah, interesting conversation for me. It's really fascinating when I think about it, right? Because I sometimes wonder if humans are the ultimate liability, but then maybe not, right?
I
I'm
mean,
not
they
sure.
are the like. I agree that they are the ultimate liability, because you can never remove ignorance or complacency or corruption from humanity, right? Like that, those attributes will be present in us as a species for all of time, in the past, in the future. That's always going to be true. The AI, on the other hand, is an evolving system. It evolves a lot faster, than everything else. So its ability to become smarter, to know not to delete your Kubernetes cluster and just destroy the entire thing, like it's something that would do now, but maybe when it gets to a certain level, like that stuff, those kind of risks go away. And that's likely to happen, I would even say, over the next few years.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Just a reminder to everyone listening, please share the space. This is really great stuff. And if anyone wants to come here and ask questions, you are more than welcome to do so. These are community spaces. We have Chad Barraford up here, one of the core devs of THORChain, for those who don't know. And we will answer any question that you have. It's always an open stage. We believe in full transparency. We are building this in real time, and we're building it together. Kenton, I was wondering if you had anything else at all. It's been a really good space so far. No, I haven't really got any questions from the community, so I think that means we're doing okay when it comes to communicating.
No, I'm good, man. I mean, if it's a short one, that's good. But I got nothing to add.
Yeah, I think things are going to get really spicy and interesting when the new updates get pushed, right? When Rajira raises the caps on lending, that's literally like we're almost just a little bit over a week away. Okay, it's the 15th is when the cutoff, and then the next week, so 2 weeks, I should say. Excuse me. Um, but yeah, I really don't really have much else. Chad, did you have anything else for us at all that you want to get off your chest, or anything else you've been thinking about?
Um, Trying to think of something I've missed. Do No, I don't think so. I think my focus right now is getting the intense feature kind of merged, which is going to take weeks, if not a month or two, to do. Working on this AI stuff we've already been talking about. I'm going to keep on pushing on that over the next like few weeks, and see how much value we can extract from that, if any. We'll see. See how the experiment goes. And I'm looking forward to launching that kind of like AI, ChatGPT for THORChain community that's specifically trained on our information, and has access to live information from mainnet. So it's a block explorer, it's a code explorer, and it's a, documentation all in a chat interface for us to interact with through the website or through Discord or whatever. I think that'll be a really useful tool for the community.
100%. I think that, yeah, the synergy too, like you were saying with STO and Kenton, I think that's really great. It's just super helpful to have just something there to help people who have questions or navigate anything. Super, super cool. I totally agree. Very excited for that. Okay, guys, I'm going to give one last shout out to the audience. And if we got nothing, we'll just go ahead and wrap it. We'll stop about hour and a half. That's pretty reasonable length for a space. Sometimes we go 2, 3, 4 hours. But if no one's got any questions, great, awesome. But yeah, hey Chad, thank you so much for giving us your time. And real quick, like, how are you feeling, man? Are you feeling pumped up for this next year? I know I am. Like, what's your motivation? How are you doing personally?
I mean, I'm excited about 2026 in general. Like, we've got some, big things coming down with like intents and like opt-in security and limit swaps and rapid swaps and these kind of things over the next few months. Obviously, we got some new chains coming: Solana, Zcash. More kind of downstream. Just like in the next the first quarter of THORChain, or quarter or two, is going to be pretty heavy and like some major things. And then I think after that, there's gonna be more of a push to kind of focus on cleaning up the code base and like kind of working on stability and cleaning up some loose ends we've been meaning to clean up for a long time, and that kind of stuff, like getting things like neat and tidy and smoother operation. I think I'm something I've been wanting to do for a long time, but those things have less value than adding like major features that do provide strong amount of value for the protocol. So I'm kind of excited to get around something I've been meaning to do for a super long time. And if the AI kind of world grows over the next 12 months, which I think that's pretty obvious that it will, we're going to be set to well positioned to utilize those new tools to benefit the protocol, and keep things even have things like real time AI developers that are constantly just reviewing everything, and as things are happening more or less. So even when there's a production outage of some kind, before I even looked at the situation, I already got like a detailed explanation of what's going on from the AI, which would be so useful because we can fix problems a lot faster because I don't have to spend 2 hours myself running through the code trying to figure out how and what happened and how to fix it. And the AI can get that done theoretically faster than I can even be aware the problem even exists. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty badass. I totally agree. We did have a couple people come up, ask questions. I don't know which one requested first. It was pretty simultaneous from my thing. So I'm gonna start with R.no. If you want to check your mic, how you doing?
Hey, hey, check, check. How are you guys? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. You sound great. Go ahead.
Awesome. I have a thought that I had back in 2021, and I kind of floated it, but back then the thoughts were like the focus was on synth assets and like the saver stuff. But I'm gonna bring it up and see what you guys think now. I was thinking about one way to expand the user base of THORChain. And earlier, like a few weeks ago, I remember you guys were talking about having a website to where people can go and specifically use THORChain. To me, that kind of sounds like, a little bit of a vanity project. I mean, it's cool and all, but I think kind of like if you think of Coca-Cola, I'll go to 7-Eleven to buy Coca-Cola. I don't need to go to the Coca-Cola store, right? So with THORChain, I was thinking, what are you guys' thoughts about the developers developing a plugin that allows website hosts. Let's say I have a website where I want to sell something and I want to sell it for, let's say, Bitcoin, but then somebody wants to buy that same thing but they want to pay in Doge. Like, what do you guys think about THORChain developers developing a plugin that website hosts can use to throw into their market, and this way people end up using THORChain kind of under the radar to settle their crypto transactions, and thus increasing kind of the volume, the user base, all that stuff. Do you guys have any thoughts on this idea?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
recall this. Do you want to go first, Kendall?
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, that was a while back.
Yeah, it was a while. I do recall this. I think the problem we had with it back then was that if you want to buy, I don't know, a ream of paper for $12.32, right, or something in this hypothetical. You were paying Doge, but they want to receive it in USDC because the retailer doesn't really give a shit about Doge. The problem is that, like, how much Doge do you send, right? Because you can send $12.32, but you also have to, take to account gas and price movements and slippage and what have you. And this gets really difficult to be precise. So one way you could do that is, instead of sending $12.32, you send over, $18. You overshoot it on purpose, and then the protocol could split the result and say, like, okay, we're gonna get $12.32 worth of USDC plus gas, outbound fees, blah blah blah. And then we're going to refund you the $6 remaining, or $5 remaining, or whatever the value would be. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm open to it. The question is, like getting it out there I think would be difficult. Like, like building a who do we talk to? Who do we sell this to? Like, what retailer or company, or would it be Shopify? I don't know, maybe Shopify is the answer to this question. Do we have the connections and relationships required to kind of foster these kind of things? I'm open to the idea of it, more so today than I was back in 2021. Um, but there are complications to be considered of.
I actually appreciate that. I think that um who do we offer this product to? I think that should be available, as in, like, hey, if you're interested in settling with crypto payments, hey, this is one way to use it, and just available. It's not like you have to push it to people to use it. I would have it available for like small time people, like, let's say me. I'm like a musician, I want to sell t-shirts, or whatever. um when it comes to, yeah, the specifics are kind of tricky. You would have to probably, like you said, send a little bit extra and get a refund. But I gotta say, like, in the middle of a bull cycle, let's say, or not even, but like a lot of people who have tons of Doge or tons of whatever currency, I think they would gladly overpay a bit and get a little refund, but be able to spend their crypto KYC, without KYCing it and stuff like that. I think there's benefit there, but again, this is just an opinion of someone who's not even a developer. I'm just kind of like a fan, and I've been, in the THORChain verse for like 5 years now and stuff, and I do want to see it prosper. I'm just kind of, my goal is not to necessarily like push this idea, more so to just kind of run some more ideas, so when you guys are developing this ecosystem, it's like more rounded. There's a little bit of everything for everybody. Again,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not a perfect solution, but I think it's something to explore. And it's just more so just like a brainstorming, that's all.
Yeah. I wonder if there's, like, you could do something like, that you can do, like, quotes, right? Like, kind of like when I don't know if you guys ever have used like an OTC dealer before or not, but like you go to an OTC dealer and you say, "Hey, I want to sell some Bitcoin. I've got 10 Bitcoin or whatever." And they give you like a price quote. You want 10 Bitcoin to USDC, let's say. And they give you some sort of price quote. "Oh, we'll give you, here's our quote. You know, uh, we'll give you X amount of USDC, whatever." And then you agree to that, and that's locked in for some period of time before it expires. So as long as you get the BTC to them within that time period, they'll kind of like honor what the quote was. So maybe we could theoretically do something like that, where we have some sort of quote that is kind of locked in for some period of time, and maybe that's the way to do it. And that way you
or
don't
it
have to
could
like.
be or it could be a combination. You can have the locked in quote for, like, let's say, x amount of seconds, but you could also have a little bit like, hey, this is the quote, but the actual total could differ some, and then that's where you would issue the refund or whatever. You overshoot some, you settle the transaction, return whatever is left. I think a lot of people would be okay with that. But again,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I'm open to it. Yeah, I liked the idea back in 2021. It was just kind of like I didn't see the way forward on it without causing like more kind of craziness. Like I like to avoid the whole refund notion because it just feels like
Yeah.
it just complicates. It's like, oh, I'm buying something for $12, but I'm sending them $25 and or whatever the numbers might be. And it's just very counterintuitive and confusing to the user. There's like too much cognitive overhead. And some even if it all worked just sparkly fine, like everything just worked great. It's just weird to the user, like, why am I sending you $20 for what I'm buying is $12? And so like if we can get around that and just keep it simple and clean, in some way form, then I'd be more open to it. And like at that point that's like yeah, I don't know. I'd be open to it. I just have to I haven't thought that much about it since 2021. Maybe I'll start pondering on it now that you brought it up.
I appreciate the airtime. Thank you for hearing me out, and
Yeah.
I would think more about that. I know there was another person who came up to speak, so I don't want to overshadow that.
Well,
Well,
thank you. Go
I
ahead,
have some
Kevin.
comments on your question too, or no?
Hey,
Um,
go ahead.
so like, have you heard of Mocha app? Like, so basically, actually, what you described is a point of sale, and so like, Mocha is working on that, and I think Bio Labs might be as well. Um, so like, that's literally what Mocha wants to do, and they're using THORChain in the background to like power it basically. So like those platforms you could talk to can integrate Mocha, and boom, done. It's using THORChain. Um, as far as THORChain specifically, something we're kind of doing that we want to do that might be like a halfway solution to your idea is we want to create a widget for the front end that any website can integrate, right? So if they want to turn their website into an exchange, even say CoinGecko, right? We can get them to put our widget on their website, and people can place their trades on that site just like they're placing trades through swap.thorchain. Um, that we want to develop and get going, and so that might be if you've got an e-commerce site, you can make, listen, hey, I accept stable coins, use this widget to sell your crypto for stable coins and then send me the stable coins. I know there's a lot of steps there. I get it. But I'm just saying that might be um a part way solution to your problem.
Kenton, that sounds like a 95% already there solution. Like instead of exchanging crypto for crypto, it'd be just crypto for goods or services. So sounds like, and what you said about Mocha, I mean, if they're taking care of that, maybe sounds like they're already on top of it, and that does incorporate Thorchain. So it's like a win-win, which would be great.
Yeah. And if I was gonna be like a Debbie Downer, I think the bigger hang up with businesses accepting crypto is that they still want to settle in fiat. They might, even if the business is pro crypto and maybe they invest personally. A lot of businesses still they pay their bills in fiat, right? And they want to collect fiat. And so my understanding with point of sale is you got to be able to convert the crypto into fiat somehow. Just converting crypto into stable coins might not be enough. You have to get from stable coins to fiat. And that, I could be wrong, but I think that might be the biggest hang up with these point of sales is figuring that piece out.
I think that's mostly because of regulatory problems. I think that if the Fed became more crypto friendly, ultimately these issues could become um, less of a big deal. But currently, I think you're dead on. They just are afraid to use crypto to settle because of possible problems with the IRS and the government in general. So, but I think that maybe this infrastructure being built today so it could be useful in 5 years when the environment is more crypto friendly could be a good call, but it could be also building for something that never happens. So there is risk indeed. Yeah.
Well,
Dude, I totally agree. The hang up is regulatory, not technical. And and I'm of the opinion that we're all going to be using stable coins like 10 years from now. Every transaction we do will be a stable coin, whether we know it or not. So maybe that'll be good enough if the merchant can accept payment in stable coins. The on and off ramps for stable coins of fiat are going to become like ubiquitous, basically, and maybe that solves their own problems. So yeah, you're right about building for the future.
And
Thank you, guys.
yeah, just so you know, Mocha is in the audience there, the red circle there, so you can give them a follow and and learn about them. Really, really great team. I've known them. I met them personally. Absolutely wonderful team. And Biolabs is really cool too. And actually, there's a lot of people who show interest in Mocha are actually some of like the most economically unstable areas, right? They where their fiat currency sucks ass. And they just want a mechanism of which they can use. And Mocha is getting a lot of attention in those countries where they're having those problems because, again, blockchain is the settlement layer because the fiat is so terrible. So pretty cool protocol. Definitely check them out. We have another speaker up here, Ray Montreal. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Awesome. What do you got for us, brother?
Well, thanks for passing the conch to me. So my question has to do with the quote that will be shown. So I heard a lot of great things about rapid swaps and limit swaps. My experience when doing a swap has been that other alternatives have been shown by the aggregators on their websites. So other options show up first. So my question is, when we integrate these new solutions, the rapid swaps and the limit swaps and whatever else that's coming down the pipe, will there be something that gives the accurate quote and hopefully brings us up above the competition on the list?
Um, well, so the term accurate quote is kind of like a double-edged sword in some ways. Like when we give you a quote, we're looking at the state of the network in this particular moment, and what if you give us X, we'll give you Y or whatever. But obviously, like things can shift. Like if you said Bitcoin takes 10 minutes for even to hit the chain. So in that 10-minute period, how much has changed? Like how much has the Bitcoin price changed? How much has the coin you're swapping to price change? And that can change the outcome of your thing. So quotes are like best get predictions of what you will likely get given the information we have at this particular time. But things can change in 5 minutes, and you can get more or you can get less of what the quote give you. So, but we already gave you the most accurate quote we can given the information we have like at that time. If the question is like when can we get better than higher up on the aggregators like SwapKit, um that comes down to two things. One is I have been pushing for a while, and I'm continuing to do so in Q1 to make our trades faster. And by having a faster trade, we get a little extra brownie points with the swap kit. Even though we may not have the best execution in terms of price, we have the better execution in terms of time, and then we might get become the recommended swap kind of avenue because we're just our prices are close enough and our time is considerably faster, and therefore we get prioritized over other competitors. That's a scenario that I'm going to actively push for over the next quarter or so. To get a better price, that requires just changing a configuration of what the actual swap fees are. Like we can change, and we have in the recent past, set our swap fees to 1 basis points, right? And when we had 1 basis point and our as our configuration, we were getting like 80% of the volume, as you might kind of guess in some ways, of the general volume of the market. But we weren't collecting that much in fees because we're only getting 1 basis point per swap. We get more swaps, yes, but less, revenue per swap. So then we did this kind of thing over a couple month time span where we just started trying 1 basis point and 25 basis points and 5 basis points and 15 and 10, and like kind of moved around several times, hitting each one more than one time, just to get a sense of like, what is a good sweet spot between volume and fee collection. And I think we've landed at the optimal kind of place. We could go down and get more volume, but we'd also get less fees. And so that's the kind of the balance that we've been trying to strike the last few months, which is also why where we're not like the number one necessarily, although we're not too far behind everybody else. But that's the predominant reason why we're not number one, is because we're trying to make a balance between fee collection and volume. Some of our competitors are the opposite, Near, for example, like didn't charge fees at all. Like, and sometimes their fees were so low that they were actually negative in some cases, and they were losing money on every single trade. And that's just part of their kind of business strategy of trying to acquire volume, just so they can have bragging rights of the most volume or whatever. But obviously they couldn't keep that up forever. And I think they stopped, a few weeks ago. And I can't think, correct me if I'm wrong here. But we're all kind of vying for the same volume in one form or another, and offering different, value and, opportunity, and doing the best we can.
Okay, so if I hear you correctly, without killing our own revenue, we're only going to compete on speed. So hopefully these solutions will be reflected by the aggregators that will show that we'll do it in 6 seconds or 12 seconds or whatever, and then we can get to the top of the list. This is the winning pathway, I
Uh,
gather?
I'm not going to go as far to say that it's the quote winning pathway, because at most, like SwapKit, for example, SwapKit will, if there's a huge difference, so if there's like a 15-minute difference between us and like Near, for example, let's say it's just us and Near in the competition here, and we're 15 minutes faster, we will get kind of 20% more kind of leeway on our execution than they do on theirs, right? That's just the math of how SwapKit does their kind of calculation, right? If we're within 1 minute of each other, then we're effectively the same amount of time, even though we're a little bit faster. But if we're within 1 minute, we're considered to be more or less the same, and then it becomes down to price, right? But if we're 5 minutes faster, or 2 minutes faster, or 15 minutes faster, blah blah blah, we can get some extra bonus points, and we may beat them depending upon how far our pricing is from their pricing, and how far our speed is from their speed. And obviously, what Swapkit puts the most weight, in the most severe situations, 80% of their weight on the price, and least severe, it puts 0% on the speed of things. So I wouldn't go as far to say that that's our pathway to win necessarily. But that said, like, when we have this like zero conf swap thing that I've been talking about for a little while, and there's an active MR that's going on right now between me and Ursa to get that merged and settled. Like, um, when Near does a trade, from Bitcoin to USDC, for example, it's a 26-minute process, a 27-minute process for them, because they wait for two confirmations on their particular design currently. And we can go from where we are now, which might be like, let's just say, let's just call it, depends on the size of the trade, but let's just call it 15 minutes for argument's sake. We can go from 15 minutes down to 10 minutes, and chop off 5 minutes from our trade speed, hypothetically. And now we're like, if we're at 10 minutes and they're at 26 minutes, we're more than 15 minutes better performance than they are. So we get about 20% little kind of leeway on our kind of offering than they do on theirs. So like, it's not even going to be that, like, it wouldn't be very effectual on you know Ethereum to Doge trades, because the time difference between us and them is probably not going to be anywhere close to 15 minutes, even if it's more than a minute or so, right? So it depends on the trade, like, pathway, the route. It depends on the assets. It depends on like a lot of different things. But whenever I see an opportunity or an ability to kind of get a little bit of an edge, even if it's not like the end all be all, like that you kind of um, labeled it a few minutes ago, I'm still going to go for it, because it's still going to give us more volume. It's not going to get us all the volume, you know.
Okay, well, thanks for all you do. Thanks for your answers, and best for 2026 to everybody in the community. I love you guys.
Yeah, thanks, Ray.
Thank you very much, Ray. And from what I remember, Ray, you were one of the people. You have become such a wonderful member of this community. Thank you. I know the THORFi stuff was a brutal time, but I really appreciate your contribution. And I see you everywhere, man. So shout out to you, dude. So thank you for coming up and asking that question. I really appreciate it. I think we're coming to the last of this space here, guys. If anyone has any questions, please request now. And shout out to Boone. I sent you a DM, buddy. So go ahead and check that out. Okay, Kenton, you got anything else?
No, I'm good. We can wrap it up.
I think we'll wrap it up, guys. Chad, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. Always great to have you give some time to reach out to the community. And thank you, R.no, for coming up as well. And D-Fire, guys, D-Fire, please check that out. He's a new node operator, very exciting. Wonderful guy. Been around the community for a while, so very, very cool. Okay, guys, let's talk about what's coming up here. So this Saturday, 2 days from now, we're going to have Edge Wallet with Paul. The next weekend, January 17th, we're going to have Thor Wallet, Pedro. We're going to try again because we didn't really talk about Thor Wallet so much when last time we had space. So we're going to fix that. We're going to have good old Pedro come back and Crypto XZ. And then the next week, we're going to have Let's Exchange. Is that Monero sex that we were talking about earlier, Kenton, by chance?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's really cool. I'm assuming you organized that. Nice job, man. Super, super cool. So that's what's coming in the next 3 weeks, guys. So awesome stuff. So we're gonna kick it there, guys. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your work week, and we will see you all Saturday. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.